And welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We got two parts coming for you. We're going to be talking about new coaching hires and how they impact your fantasy football team. We're going to talk impacts for this season and impacts for Dynasty. And I'm joined by Jeff and Will from Media. How are we doing, guys?
Doing all right, man.
Our Dynasty League just got turned over. Will is already looking forward to the draft with the 101. Jeff, you have 2 first-round picks. So maybe if some of these guys get drafted to some of these new teams with new head coaches, maybe you'll be looking at them a little bit differently. But we're going to get right into it. Probably the biggest coaching hire of the offseason. Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. He's going to bring that Lions offense, all the trick plays coming out for Chicago this year. Hopefully, he can help Caleb Williams take the big step forward. I like the system they're bringing. I think it should be good for Caleb Williams. They have the wide receiver talent. They have Swift in the backfield. Could possibly look to add a running back in the draft or through free agency. So I like the offense in general. To me, the coaching staff doesn't make this offense unless their GM can bring them in some offensive linemen. Because this offense is not going to be good like it was in Detroit behind one of the best offensive lines. You can't do everything Detroit did without their offensive line. So for me, if the Bears come out and they go in free agency, go into the draft and spend some draft capital on offensive line, I think this system can be very, very efficient with Caleb Williams. Will be good for DJ Moore as well. I like it for this season and dynasty-wise if they can fix the offensive line. Jeff, what do you think about the Bears' new look offense?
Well, as a guy that drafted Caleb Williams last year in our Dynasty draft, I am very pleased because I just look at it. They've got the framework already. They've got the model. Yeah. So now I believe that their GM is capable enough to find some linemen in the draft and via free agency. So I'm looking at possibly a new and improved version of the Detroit Lions offense. Mm-hmm. So
it'll be new. I don't know if they'll improve upon the Lions offensive last year, but it'll improve.
You have a quarterback now that is a lot younger.
Yep.
Just a tad more accurate than Goff and very mobile. So
yeah, he's definitely that.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little kind of excited. You've already got 2 young receivers in place with an older vet. If you're gonna, hold on to him. Like you mentioned, they got one piece, not necessarily Jahmyr Gibbs, but, Swift was the model for Jahmyr Gibbs at first. So, just a lot of similarities, man. And I think they actually have a lot of the pieces in place that Detroit took a while to go ahead and draft. So now I think it's drafting and signing guys complementary to build up that offense.
Yeah, I think they have the wide receivers, as you said, Odunze, DJ Moore. They have Swift, who could be one of the 1-2 punch. This running back class is pretty deep. I know, Will, you're definitely in on this running back class. You think there's some steals later on. So if the Bears can get one of them and some offensive line, Will, are you in on the new Chicago Bears offense?
Yeah, I think the only, for a fantasy perspective, is who's the backup this year, realistically, for them at QB? Because I don't believe is on the roster right now. And, they got 3 picks in the first 64 and more than that as far as where those picks are located. So you got to figure one of them's a running back in their first 3 picks. And you think about those first 3 running backs that'll be available. They're going to get one of them more than likely. Yep. And you put it on that team. And if they're aggressive in free agency and get in the offensive line, the only thing that worries me is who is the backup QB. And I'm going to throw out there Trey Lance.
Yep. Yeah, he could definitely, coming in as a free agent, could go to a place where they'll have a mobile quarterback in front of him so that they don't really have to change the system too much. That's what I think Trey Lance is going to look for, whether he goes to Indy, to a place where he can be behind a mobile guy. So I do like Chicago there as an option as well. So if they can address the offensive line this offseason, we're all in on Chicago. If they do not address the offensive line, I'm not touching any part of this. I don't think Caleb Williams looked comfortable last year, and I don't think Ben Johnson can scheme enough to make up for how bad their offensive line was last year. I don't think really any team can.
They got their top 4 in cap space. If that if that front office doesn't replace 2 guards in free agency,
but they did keep Ryan Poles, so we'll see. He's had his time in Chicago, and he's yet to put together an offensive line that has been any semblance of a top 20 offensive line since he's been there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hold out hope, but if they do it, it definitely could be good. We're going to move on to maybe not as exciting of a team. The Las Vegas Raiders bringing in Pete Carroll, getting him back out, old guy stand on the sideline, and they brought in Chip Kelly, who was at Ohio State last year, former Eagles coach, UCLA head coach. We'll see if he can get this offense going, but they do not currently have a quarterback. I don't think they're starting running backs on their current roster. Their wide receivers, who knows what's really going to happen. Brock Bowers should be heavily involved. I think Chip Kelly will focus on him. But for me, I'm kind of, other than Brock Bowers, going to be hands off the Raiders. I don't necessarily love this dynasty-wise either. We've seen Chip Kelly's offenses work and also completely fail. And without the talent there, and Pete Carroll could be, if this doesn't turn around in the next couple of years, he could just say he's had enough and they could be back in the cycle. So for me, Raiders, other than Brock Bowers, at least for now, they could address the quarterback, bring in a free agent like, Aaron Rodgers, or they could trade for Stafford, and then that would completely change their outlook. They could draft a running back. But at the moment, I do think Chip Kelly can succeed if he has the talent around him. I just don't see that at this point. Jeff, Cali guy, UCLA, do you think Chip Kelly can do it for the Raiders?
Not this year. But there is one thing that I'm looking, and it's not necessarily Chip Kelly. It's my man, Pete. My man Pete, head coach of the old Seahawks. If Ashton Genty actually drops or gets to them and they select him rather than a quarterback, that's what I'm looking at, because that is his Marshawn Lynch in this draft. So if he happens to get that, man, I mean, the Raiders haven't really turned over a whole lot of guys as far as offensive wise. And Brandon Jacobs was able to still be effective as a runner. So that's the one thing I know Pete is going to do. They're going to run the ball. And looking at what
unless they're on the 1 yard line. I hear they don't like to run the ball in there.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to hear that. You're bringing me down, man, with that. Don't take me back to that. But also with Chip Kelly there, looking at what they did with that run game at Ohio State last year as well, I can see a little bit of that being in this offense. So if they go ahead and get Genty, I've got a little bit of there's a little, what shall I say, little shine to the offense that could happen if he's there. So that's what I'm watching. I want to see who they get in that backfield.
Will, are you looking forward to the new look Raiders? Do you think that this coaching staff will be able to make do with whatever they can address this offseason?
I think Pete Carroll was probably the better choice of all the names that were floating out there for the Raiders. Still the Raiders. So until there's some sense of somebody's doing something that they know what they're doing, and Pete, I think to Jeff's point, Pete can be that guy. Are they going to listen to Pete though? And they got to solve the quarterback issue. So I don't believe Pete Carroll at this point in his career is picking a rookie quarterback and starting in the NFL.
I think with the rookie quarterbacks coming in, I think Aiden O'Connell is their best option if they're going to stay young. In my opinion, I think Aiden O'Connell is a better prospect than everyone outside of Cam Ward, but I don't think they're getting Cam Ward. So to me, it doesn't matter. So if they go veteran or they stick with what they have.
like I'll throw this out here, so we'll just be reckless. I don't think Anthony Richardson's long for the Colts, and I wonder if there's not a post-draft trade because I'm not sure the Colts can get a first for Anthony Richardson right now, even in this market. Because like I heard a stat today, since high school, he graduated high school. All of his college career in his pro career, he's thrown 700 passes. 700.
That's what happens when you only play 15 college games.
Well, so
then you get hurt.
So I just wonder if there's a post-draft trade, a post-June 1 trade, where the Raiders could give up a first next year to get the quarterback and still have a veteran in there. But, because Pete Carroll with Anthony Richardson, okay. Get the running back, build the trenches.
They could sign Rodgers, bring back Devontae Adams.
Oh, God.
Adams is going wherever Rodgers goes. The Jets are going to cut Adams, and he's going to follow Rodgers wherever they go. So if it's back to Las Vegas, I don't know. Maybe Adams still has his house back there with the Taco Bell in it.
It's interesting. I saw something because he was featured, right, in the Netflix series, right? I don't think he ever sold the house or got rid of that house.
Yeah, so I think he still has it.
I think the family I think is still in Vegas, so it wouldn't shock me. So if you signed Aaron Rodgers and you got Devontae Adams back and you draft Gentry, and then you could trade post-draft, post-June 1 for Anthony Richardson, woo, now the Raiders got me looking.
Yeah, we just turned the Raiders' whole season around.
I got a feeling they're going to end up with Deebo Samuels as well for some reason.
Yeah, I could see that happening if they don't get Rodgers and Adams. If they get Adams and Rodgers, I doubt they'll make a move for Samuel, but they could be a team that's in play for him if they definitely don't go that direction. One more team to talk about on this episode before we call it, and that's the New England Patriots, bringing back Mike Vrabel, used to play for the team, and who else other than Josh McDaniels on his 15th stint as the New England Patriots head or offensive coordinator makes me not excited. Realistically, if they can get Drake May some weapons, I would maybe start looking that direction. But to me, Josh McDaniels is not the solution that the Patriots should have gone for. I know he's the familiar face, but to me, I just want them to go in a different direction, move on from what hasn't been working in the past. So for me, I like Drake May. I'm worried that this coaching staff will stunt Drake May's growth.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
All right, let's hear it.
They're going to be worse than the Patriots were under Gerard Mayo. Mike Vrabel has never really had an offense without Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's not coming through there. Neither coach, offensive coordinator, or Vrabel have done anything really. Well, I'll go ahead and say the offensive coordinator. McDaniels has done nothing without Brady, with any other quarterback at any time. So to bring that dude in, if you're trying to tell me that May he's decent, but so was the other kid that's with the Jaguars right now?
Matt Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones they were like, oh, we might have found our replacement.
Yeah.
Without Brady being Brady of the 2000s being in that equation, we already know it does not work. And that's what we're about to find out again. Brady and Belichick not there. This is now the defense could get slightly better, maybe. I don't know. But if the offense isn't clicking, how often are they going to be on the field? That was the problem with Mayo. Defense actually wasn't bad during the first few weeks, but they were constantly on the field. So I'm just waiting for this to blow up and be a massive, fraudulent dumpster fire again for the Patriots.
Will, you own Drake May in our Dynasty League. How did you feel when the Patriots made these moves at coach?
We'll see.
Will can't say anything negative about his guy.
It's not. I think actually Drake May proved that he could play in the NFL if he's in the right system. I was nervous. But watching him near the end of the year,
yeah,
okay.
I think he can play in the right system. The Patriots have.
This ain't it. I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah.
So the question is, I think May is traded next year.
Wow.
May would be traded, or they'll have to fire McDaniels and bring in another OC.
And they're not going to do that. So they will move. I think this next year, this time they're moving May, and they'll bring in a quote unquote veteran that they like. I'll be honest with you, Kirk Cousins 2 years from now, New England.
Or they just I can see them. I can see them definitely moving on from McDaniels next year if the offense really doesn't turn it around. They can't fire Vrabel after they just did a one-and-done coach with Rod Mayo, so Vrabel has to stay. So they're going to look for a scapegoat. It will have to be Drake May or Josh McDaniels if this doesn't work out. So we'll see. They could even just pick that May as the scapegoat and just let Milton go and run wild for the next season too. There's 3 teams, new head coaches, offensive coordinators, new systems. We'll have 4 more coming for you in the next show, so go check that out if you haven't already. Thank you, Jeff and Will, for joining me. We'll see you next time.